Welcome to Chief Miller. Chief Miller operates the largest social media page dedicated to the men and women of the fire service from around the world. Check him out on Instagram at Chief_Miller. Find him on Twitter at Chief_Miller. And check out the website where you can find Chief Miller Apparel at chiefmillerapparel.com. You're listening to Views from the Jumpseat podcast. Bunker up, buckle in. It's time for the show to begin. One thing remains constant in the fire service is that we start day one in the jump seat. So if you're a chief officer, welcome back. If you're the day one probationary, welcome aboard. It's time for Jump Seat Radio.
Siblings.
Well, hello everyone, and welcome back to Jump Seat Radio, the podcast that brings you the podcast from a certain individual's domicile, humble abode, the crib. We're up in the crib, up in Jersey. And I just cut him short on our conversation before the freaking microphone started because it's like he was laying the smack down on some Rudy Poo candy excuses. Pip, sorry to hit play when you're right in the middle of mid-sentence, but dude, you are rocking some good stuff. So welcome back, the co-host of the Jump Seat Radio. What's up, Pip?
What's up, Jump Seat Nation? And yes, we are in my house, which
Dude,
is kind of weird.
It is kind of weird.
Never done anything in my house before like this.
Yeah, so it's pretty cool that I was headed to New Jersey, and I'm doing a class tomorrow, my hoarding class, and Pip's like...
Heavy content.
Oh, sorry.
Can't say
that.
hoarding. Bad.
He's like, Ryan, come down to my house. I'm like, well, there's some ulterior motives to this. What are we going to do? He's like, number one, I'm going to crush your soul.
It's a lie.
He says, come down and work out, and then come down. We'll do some podcasts from the crib. Pip, thanks for opening up the doors of your house. I got to meet Clarice. She's freaking awesome. It got to take us to an awesome little New Jersey breakfast. But today's podcast is something that you were just talking about, and that's why I went ahead and hit record. And it's about being better than you were yesterday. And you and I have had this conversation, and I know that I kind of abruptly cut you off, but it's the reason I wanted to capture this. And let's start off by telling everyone what your thoughts are on just the improvement, the daily, the incremental improvements, I guess.
Yeah, it's so, I guess from me when we talk about this, you know, and if you followed 555 or you followed me, because obviously there's two kind of separate entities at play there that are still one. But, you know, one of my big things that I've talked about now for the 5 years I've been doing this is always trying to be better than yesterday on small things. And all too often I get people asking me questions, you know, how do I lose 100 pounds? How do I get in better shape? How do I win the CrossFit games? You know, any type of crazy question. How do I get hired? You know,
right.
Huge question I get. How do I get hired? And I love answering these questions, but it always starts off with, you know, you have to start. You have to be better than yesterday at everything we do. And it's not just physical fitness. I think I got down that road of, you know, being a guy that likes to work out a lot.
Right.
But I've learned so much more about that and about myself and how to make everyone around me better.
Well, and you can apply that to so many different facets of what we do. And I think that's why your friendship is so valuable to me, because you're like, dude, yesterday don't matter. It depends on tomorrow. And I mean, we can talk about the mental health aspect of it. We can talk about throwing a 35-foot ground ladder if we're talking about fire ground. But I want to speak to something that I think that you get probably more than anybody, and that is what you're talking about, the incremental change of a person.
It's a big word.
It is a big word. I'm in New Jersey, so I'm above the Mason-Dixon line.
My pops stopped by the firehouse. I worked yesterday. No, I worked 2 days ago. My pops comes in. My father was a firefighter. For those of you who don't know, second generation, same department.
Right.
Big Russ comes in and has coffee with us.
Big Russ.
Just about every shift that I work. And listen, while we're on Big Russ, we may as well, because Ryan asked me this morning, because I have some memorabilia in my office awesome. That Big Russ acquired over the years as a firefighter. But, you know, congrats to my dad. He is now been retired longer than he worked.
Dude, that is the goal.
Beyond goal, right? And Russ was not a stud athlete.
Oh.
Russ did not take great care of his body. But what he has done in more recent years as he's gotten older is he is taking care of himself better.
Right.
And he tries. He's
Right.
80 and he
Nice.
still gets around and he brings his oxygen with him. But, it is that role of being better than yesterday. Small incremental changes. And he goes back and forth with weight, and he has to put up with me yelling at him. So for that, Dad, I'm sorry.
Hey, Dad, I get you. I get it too. Pod.
I am sorry. But it's a great little segue here to think about that because my father, he wants to, his goal used to be 70.
Right.
And it was to be 80. Well, at his 80th birthday party, he just said, F it. I'm going to 100. No, I'm going to 100. Oh, no, I'm going to 100. And think about gray hairs for me now. I'm like, oh, Russ at 100 is going to be a disaster. But I love him to death. And his work ethic, I think, also inspired my work ethic.
Right.
He worked 2 jobs. My mom never worked growing up. When I was growing up, my dad was an auto mechanic and a full-time firefighter. I mean, that was work. He wasn't being lazy or anything like that. And then you can tie it back to this attitude of he just wanted to be better. And even if he didn't know it, most of us don't even know that. We're chasing that goal to be better without even knowing it. And I think that's what I love about it.
Right. And it's so funny that when I spoke about this a couple times in the other podcast, and it was like I was going through some rough times at home, and my wife is pretty much like either go to a counselor or go to the attorney. And I was like, okay, I'll choose the counselor.
Good choice.
Yeah. Yeah. So, kicking and screaming, I went through his front door. And now when he tells me that we need to switch to maybe once a month or at least once every 2 weeks, I go out the door kicking and screaming like, dude, I need this. But what he told me is like, Ryan, why do you try to eat the elephant all at one time, every time?
Dude, wait, how much did you pay him to ask you that? Because I think I've said that to you for free. I'm just saying, not on a couch.
Yeah,
but
right. It's kind of cool that he has a couch, though. I thought that was pretty freaking cool. But it's like, maybe I'm not the only one that tries to eat the elephant all at one time.
It's a huge problem for folks like you and I in the fire service, in emergency services, not just the fire service.
Right.
We are all that alpha. We're go-getters. We're going after it. It's why we choose to risk our lives for others. And there's a bunch of other people out there that don't.
Right.
We hear it all the time when we're in the media, police, fire, EMS, we can have positive media, we can have negative media.
Right.
And you hear people, they talk about our salaries, they talk about our benefits, they talk about our pensions and how Russ can...
That's right, Russ.
We're going to go back to Russ every time in this podcast.
Russ's $1 million pension. He's going to get it all. $1 million, baby.
I go to work so my dad doesn't have to, right?
There you go.
And we tell those people, will you come do this job? And they all say no.
Right.
They all you have to do in New Jersey is high school diploma or GED and live in the city you test for. And you can take a test and you can get this amazing job. But they choose not to. Right. They choose not to want to do that. And we are that. That's maybe our big downfall too, is that we do try to eat the whole elephant.
The whole elephant.
And you can compare it to when our friends like the Frank Viscusos and John Dixon's and Mike Turpax, they teach us about leadership and they teach us about fireground tactics, and how we can't eat the whole elephant. We look at that building, but what do you have to do when you pull up on scene? You break the scene down, right? Number 1, scene safety BSI. That's everything EMS, fire, police.
Pip's a medic.
You just
Pip's
can't. I'm a former medic.
He's a
medic. Back to EMT.
Medic.
But that's what we do, right? If we wanted to eat, we want to eat that whole elephant. Your mind's racing, and I have not been in command yet at a fire, but I know what my boss goes through.
Right.
You want to go after it all, and then you have to dial it back a little bit.
So let's take that down to that jump seat. Let's break it down to our core listener of the jump seat riding firefighter. And they look at you, they look at Zog, which I'm saying that right? Zog?
Yeah, Zog dog.
Dude, if you are listening, dude, you are my hero. You are like a god to me. He pulled me aside at Nashville, and he's from the East Coast, but he works in a large metro. All right, he works in San Diego.
San Diego
works
City.
Freaking beach. I mean, the guy's just an absolute monster and the nicest man on the planet. And it's like, so if we look at a young jump seat riding firefighter, or heck, if you're the chief officer listening to the podcast, how do we start the evolution? So I call it, when I went to counseling, it's the evolution of Ryan. Whether that's growing up, whether that's wisdom, whether that's but you've got to lay out the plan. I mean, you've got to lay out And it's so funny that we took a picture and sent it to Jocko, which he's probably blocked me long by now. But you've got a pad over there that says prioritize and execute. So I would like to hear Pip's progression of prioritize and execute as far as maybe not even as much as fitness. Maybe it's a mental health thing. Maybe it's a performance thing. Maybe it's a marital thing. Maybe you want to, heck, you might want to get married, want to be a firefighter, want to be a medic. I mean, how do you start laying out that process?
So it's interesting you mentioned this, and obviously Ryan and I talk a lot, so he knows some stuff about me in the past that maybe not a lot of other people do. And part of that is the fact that I too have a success story with counseling, right, both on a personal level and then on a marital level, where it was something that I was told I should go do and went, as Ryan kind of said, kicking and screaming. And for anyone who has gone to a counselor for whatever reason, there is eventually some aha moment. And mine was I drove like a mile away from, I don't know, session whatever, 3, 4, and had to pull the car over because I was like crying, audibly, like tears rolling down, sobbing, realizing that for the past 4 sessions, this woman was everything she had me saying was making me realize that it was true. And that I maybe wasn't the person I had built myself up to be, or at least the life that I was living wasn't the best life it could be. And that's where that prioritize and execute all started for me, without me even knowing it. And right, that's the cool part, I think, about counseling. And Mrs. Pip is actually home, and we may get her on the podcast too in a little bit here. But we both learned it, and I said marital counseling later years down the road, we had some problems in our marriage, and we went, and again, like it wasn't until a few sessions where we both kind of realized like, damn, we could do better at this.
Sure.
And it took our counselor to get that out of us. But when you look at anything in your life, you can always do better. And here I am, backseat riding firefighter. For me, what was better was to try to get promoted.
Right.
Here I am, a businessman who kind of was part of a failed business and was out there looking for the next something, and 555 sort of fell into my lap this way. Did it fall into my lap, or was it that I was hungry and looking to be better?
Ooh. And that, ladies and gentlemen, is the podcast for today. Pip, I think that's why you and I do so well in this podcast, is because we respond to each other, and it's like, I think you brought up a great point. You have to be the one looking for what I don't know how to even say that. You have to be looking for something. You have to be looking for improvement. And it's so funny that, I hate to keep bringing him up, but it's just our man crush. We was listening to him the other day, and he reads a story about a chef who's just absolutely killing it in the kitchen. And his bosses come and say, hey, listen, he says, I consider myself a kitchen dog. He said, we don't need a kitchen dog anymore, and we need you to go out to the floor and be the schmoozer and woozer. He's like, but I'm the kitchen dog. And he's like, well, we don't need a kitchen dog anymore. They're like, well, and then what Jocko goes on to tell him, it says, listen, do you want them to fire you or go hire a smoozer and then not take care of your people? So, it comes to a point where if you are comfortable where you're at, I guess is my point. My long way about getting this point.
Going back to the point now.
And tick-tock, tick-tock, tick-tock. The point being, if you're comfortable and you're not looking for improvement, don't listen to the podcast. Hit stop. You're okay. You're great. You're fantastic. Your marriage is fantastic. Your kids are going to be president. You can climb the 13 stories, throw the damsel in distress over your thing, climb down 13 stories, rip your shirt off, show your 12-pack abs, and say, I am the best.
You're Batman, basically.
But that's not anyone that's listening.
That's not anyone anywhere. I don't care how many social media followers you have. I don't care that you're on NBC or that you wrote top-selling books or that you're the president. Not to get political, but you're the president right now. Like, you can always be better. I listened to, I don't even know how long ago, but someone sent me a TED Talk about a guy, and I can't remember who it was or what it was all about, but at the end of the day, one of the things he said was, I don't want experts.
Right.
Because experts are done. They can't learn anymore. Because if you're an expert on podcasting, well, then you can't tell me anything. You know it all. You're not going to learn anything new. And that, to me, I think that's what I love about the fire service too. And I didn't realize this when I was a young 25-year-old rookie, you know, and now I probably still don't realize it as a near 40-year-old man. When this airs, I'll be 40. Scary. But, you know, I didn't even realize that type of thing.
Is it your birthday?
Not today, but next week, yeah.
Next week is your birthday?
Yeah, stop, because I'm going to lose this is what happens. I forget. This is fireman. Look, squirrel. Here we go. No. But I listened to it, and he said, I don't need experts because I can't teach them anything.
That's right.
You can't learn anything. And in the fire service, every day we're learning. And look, I may not agree with something someone's talking about, whether it is transitional attack or it is called, what's it called now when you're not supposed to go in and then you do? I don't know, whatever they call it today or whatever this study says. But even though I don't agree with what they're saying, I'm still going to learn something from them. You know, like, and that's why I love this job. And that's why I love fitness too. Be honest with you, when you look at fitness, there are folks out there that claim to be experts or claim to have the ultimate way to get fit. All they're looking for is dollars.
Right.
They're looking for your dollars. In reality, the best way to get fit is to work out, is to exercise. Very recent study out that said that people who don't work out are more likely to die than people who smoke. Let that sink in. But no, don't make Ryan's a bit here making a face, but Ryan works out, so he's not in that group.
Not all the time.
No, but you are consistent enough. Right. You know, and people ask me when I travel, like, oh, what do you work out 7 days a week?
Nope.
No. What do you must work out 9 hours a day. No. Like, I work out when I can.
Right.
And honestly, a lot of it is short burst stuff because that's the time I have between Mrs. Pip, the little Pips, hello Clarice, keeping up a house, running a not-for-profit, working for a fitness company, podcasting with Ryan.
So I get what you're laying down. How do we get folks to want to be better? Is that a peer pressure? Is that a spousal pressure? Is it going to take your doctor looking at you saying, hey, fatty, you're going to die soon?
I think all those things are probably positive as much as some of it doesn't sound positive.
Right.
But I honestly think it begins from within. So you need to decide to make that change, and then you need to decide how you're going to go about it for you. And it comes down to me to one word, and it's a word that I struggle with in everything it is I do, even though it may not look that way from the outside, but it's commitment.
Ooh.
Right?
Ooh.
You have to commit to making yourself better each and every day.
But Pip, yesterday I ate a gallon of ice cream. I came home and watched soap operas and cried my eyes out and clutched my whoopee because I had a bad day.
It's really easy to be better today then. Don't do that. But you are going to have bad days, right? You are going to be unmotivated. There are days where I do not want to work out. There are days where I show up places that people want me to speak and want me to work out, and I'm like, I don't want to be here.
Right.
Right? Now, that's a bit of a different story because I have to be there. But when I see them, my motivation kicks in. You know, that's what motivates me. It's real hard to go out into the garage to Pip's Pain Pit by myself and cue up some music and get working out. The second I'm into it, I'm into it. But getting there, I could answer emails all day. I could not leave this little desk that Ryan sees that I have in my...
Freaking awesome. Yes.
But I could do that. I have to start, and I have to get that commitment because I owe it to myself. And honestly, I owe it to everyone else. That's the other way to look at it, too. That you mentioned peer support.
Ooh.
You know, peer support goes both ways. Mm-hmm. You know, people just think, and we see this with the folks out there in the mental health type end of our business and the emergency services right now. I'm here for you. I'm here to help you. Do a buddy check. Do this, do that. And all that stuff, I think it's great that there's people that want to help. But you have to want that help. You also have to want to give that help. And we know recently some fairly famous people who have taken their own lives, whether in the fire service and in the public eye. One being a Jersey guy, Anthony Bourdain, who if I could be Anthony Bourdain, I always thought that would be like a dream job of mine. Traveling, eating, working out.
The thing about it is you're looking at the highlight reel.
That's it. Right? And you see it from the outside. So you always have to remember that. And I'm fortunate. with 555, meeting people like Ryan, like Zog, Ava, Garrett, Bobby, my names go on. You guys know I could name drop more people right now that none of you know who mean more to me than any famous person in the world. Right? And that's my peer support. And they call me and I call them.
The Fokker circle of trust.
It's almost like that.
Dude, it is.
But it's great, right? And that's it. But I'm committed to them, and they're committed to me. That commitment, that starting, is what's going to change you.
Boy, you just laid her down there. I don't know if I agree or disagree with the firefighters using for them and the social media stuff. Because I think you just brought up a great them that we should be doing things for as well. Not just the citizens, but our fellow firefighters and brothers and sisters, our wives, our kids. So maybe I'm reading it wrong and reading the them being the citizens, but maybe it's them includes our families.
So
we're getting deep up in here.
This is a way deep Jumpseat Views podcast. But so when I teach, I teach. I guess it's motivation these days, right? It's the motivation to be fit and to get better. That's basically what my message is. The 555 mission is one thing, and we've developed into a lot of things, but my mission is to motivate people to want to change. And I ask that common fitness question, what's your why? And, why are you here? And when I look at my why, I throw up some slides. And one of them is Mrs. Pip and the Mini Pips. And another one of them is my Engine 1 crew, my 3 guys that I work with every time we go to work. If they're not off, one of them's there. I throw in some pictures of folks like Ryan and Zog and my 555 family. And, then there's them. There's the public that we're there to help and to save.
Which I get.
Yep.
I get that we're there for them.
But I'm going to add one more layer onto this because this is what I ask in my class. I go through all that. And I ask people about their why, and we talk about that. And then I flip to the next slide, and it's a picture of my boys and Mrs. Pip again. And I ask all the emergency providers in the room, how come my family is not your why? Right?
Woo!
Because if something happens to me, and you can't help me because maybe you're not at the best level you should be, you're not trying to be better than yesterday, you have to look those 2 little boys and that amazing woman in the face. And now you have to move on from that.
And then you've got to deal with it for the rest of your life.
Where I'm not here anymore.
Right.
Not even about me anymore. That day, that ship sailed. And remember, it could be I got into a bad spot. But listen, firefighters are going to die every year in the line of duty. We work a dangerous job. We can't walk the line both ways. I hear too many people like, oh, I can't believe we lost another brother.
It's going to happen.
A collapse is going to happen. You can go to every class in the world. You can have a pistol grip nozzle or not. You can throw 35s by yourself on the internet. Whatever it is, there could still be a day where something bad's going to happen. Just a car accident, anything like that. And you have to think about that.
But the preventable ones is the one that keeps smacking me. And it's like I keep seeing these firefighters, male and female, dying from the heart attacks. And dare I say they are younger than I am, and they are in better shape than I am. And listen, I get genetics. I'm genetically predisposed to be blah, 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 blah. But it's a choice that I'm making. And it's a struggle that I have, and I've shared on the podcast all the time. Is like making the commitment, and maybe I need to add the families of the guys with me.
It's something we all carry, and then too as a leader, as a junior officer, as a lieutenant, that's a huge burden I carry with me. Every shift I work is those 3 guys, and the other guys too on my shift, but my 3 are my responsibility. When we're out on a highway, I'm looking at where that rig is. I don't even care. I shouldn't say this because I'm going to get blown up. But, like, who's ever hurt on the scene or whatever we're doing, listen, my guys are good.
Right.
My guys are trained. They're EMTs. They're firefighters. They're doing their job. I don't care what they're doing because I know they're doing their job. If I see them doing something they're not, we're going to talk.
But you care about the overall.
I'm looking at that overall thing. that's what I'm always thinking about.
Right.
Like watch your door when you're opening the door.
Well, it's so funny you say that because, we talk about Daniel all the time. And one of these days, I'm actually going to bring him on the podcast and share his experience. But they're getting ready for their final evolution for the Charleston Fire Department. And their final evolution is a butt-kicking, smacking the whatever you have down there test. And it's like we take them down and walk them through this series of events. Event number 1 is a 100-foot ladder climb. Tie your rope, drop the rope bag, 100-foot ladder climb, then hoist your tools at 100 feet. So I have my recruit up there from the 6-stick the other day, and he's 100 feet in the air, and he's just already climbed it up twice. And I know that is not his strength, is climbing ladders. Kid can climb stairs all day, but ladders is not that. And it's just like, I was talking to their captain. I'm like, dude, this is not an area that I'm comfortable at because I'm not beside him up there. And it's like, if I take my 200 pounds and climb behind him, that thing gets a whole lot more bouncier. So it's probably safer for me to be down here and watch over the situation. I'm like, dude, have you clipped in? But there's that burden of leadership again.
Yeah, you're, and that alone, so when you look at USFA numbers, they say stress over exertion. Right. So
that's what we're going to have here in about another hour. So rest in peace, Jumpseat Radio.
In another hour when we work out, it's going to be over exertion.
Oh, yeah.
Stress is more of that mental end of worrying about, did he clip in?
Oh, yeah.
Like we don't even think about that. When we look at our commanding officers, our battalion chiefs, our chiefs ride in the car, staying outside, that burden on them and that stress level, they're not physically working, but I guarantee most of their heart rates are just as high as all the guys out there physically performing.
I guess that's where I got my phone popped up here. Philly's on a 2-alarm job. And how far away from Philly are we?
We could be there in about 45 minutes, depending on where the job is. So a little far. We're not smacking a job right now.
That was the thing that really stood out, was the burden of responsibility. And I talked to Captain Durati beside me, and he's like, "Yeah, Ryan, this sucks." And it's like, I guess it never really sunk in until I got a chance to go ride the EMS buggy. And when I ride the EMS buggy, I've got five ambulances I look after. And I'm not the battalion, I'm the EMS supervisor. But let's face it, the ambulances are going out 10 to every one, it seems like, for the fight. And it was just like that burden of responsibility comes. Hey, Clarice, how are you? So that stress of that, and I'm sure if you had asked Chief Salka that year 10 on Battalion 18 was better than year 2, I'm sure we've got some stress inoculation or whatever that big word is. But we definitely need to add that into the mix as far as what we're talking about.
For sure. I'm looking right now at the USFA. It's figure 11 if you pull up the 2017 report, and it's an age breakdown. And that heart attack CVA other, once you get over the age of 36, it takes over. And, here I am. I'm turning 40 this year. And
when was your birthday coming up?
Tuesday, Mischief Night. October 30th. This is going to be out after probably though, right?
Yeah, it'll be out.
I'll be 40.
Happy
but
birthday to you.
But here's something we go to stress in that. So in New Jersey, we are blessed to have a physical program called A Gift from Captain Buscio.
Right.
I went this year, and I passed with flying colors when I got all my report stuff back. The stress test said reason for test determination. It said fatigue. And I basically looked at Mrs. Pip and was like, that treadmill was fatigued, not me. The treadmill was fatigued. I was good to go. I went the full 16 minutes, though, right? But so one of the bonuses to this program is that once you get your results, well, actually, that day you schedule a follow-up.
Right.
So now you get your results, and you go and sit with a doctor who you met for 5 minutes that day, and he goes over all your reports. And I had said to him, like, well, I'm 39. What do you think? 5 more years after you're looking at all this? And he's like, no way. He's like, 2 at a minimum. He's like, do you know Dominic Buscio was 39 years old and in perfect shape when he died? And that was kind of like you just slapped me in the face. Like, I guess that was a bad call on my part. But what Captain Buscio didn't know was all the information that I just learned. Right. Had he done that stress test and all the cardiac screening, they would have found out that the walls of his heart were thicker, and they maybe could have prevented his death. And that's those things that, we have to do that for ourselves, for them, for our coworkers. And it's free. In New Jersey, it's free. Amazing program started by Captain Buscio's wife. And I recommend everybody that. That's a start in it, too. If we talk physical fitness, is go get checked out.
Right.
Go get a comprehensive cardiac exam. Go do whatever it is. And what's the number one reason why Not just firefighters, but people don't go to the doctor.
Because they're afraid to hear the bad things.
That's it. They don't want to know. It's all better to not know. No, it's not better to not know because of medicine now. Medicine's gotten better.
Right.
It's just like people will, I had high blood pressure. The doctor put me on pills and now it's good. Yeah, but you could probably get off the pills and make it better yourself.
Right.
The pills are just there to help control it until you get better.
Right.
And it's that again, giving back to yourself, being motivated and being committed to making yourself better than yesterday.
All right, Pip, we try to keep these at 30 minutes, which is like almost impossible for you and I. Clarice is going back in there. What started down this road, I think, was today you're trying to outrun the you from yesterday.
Yes, sir.
Give me the Pip's top 3 of how to get started.
To how to get started, or to how to outrun me from yesterday?
Outrun you from yesterday. How is that Jumpseat firefighter going to listen to this podcast? And give me your top takeaway, just one top takeaway of how you can start down that road to improvement, whether that's mental health, whether that's what you're going to kick my ass here in a little bit, or I mean, if maybe it's making your marriage better.
You, and this is it. You are not perfect. You're not. I'm not. Ryan isn't, Clarice isn't, Mrs. Pip isn't, the mini Pips, anyone that I met on anyone anywhere. We're not perfect. And listen, there are things we can do that are really well.
Right.
I do some things really well. I do some things really horribly. But the key is to know that you're not perfect. You can always do better. And if I look at, like I said, like the simplest things, even in business, if I can do something better than I did yesterday, make a better relationship, make somebody feel better, anything. That's it. And once you start to really accept that in your life, you're on that path or that journey, as some folks we talked about earlier call it. But you have to keep reminding yourself of that. And it's a hard thing.
I'm going to add my takeaway is if you are listening to this podcast, are not dead. You're not done. You're not finished. You may be fat. You may be in a disastrous marriage. You may be a hopeless single person that never thinks there's no one that's going to find you and love you out there. But you just haven't found that person yet. You have not lost that weight yet. You've not grown the faux hawk yet. See where I'm going with this? Don't give up on yourself, and tomorrow's going to be better.
Yeah, that's it. You just have to look to it being better each day, and making yourself better each day in every aspect of your life. And the other part, too, is that it's not always going to work.
Right.
You're going to fall. You're going to falter.
I'm going to fall, and I'm going to filter here in about 2 hours.
If you guys watch me online, and again, I put up the failures of working out. I put up me trying to back squat, I don't know what it was, like a year ago, 335, 340, and it didn't work. And there's so many people that were like, you got that, bro. You got that. And I'm like, you didn't have that weight on your back, bro.
Yeah.
But I'm still going to try again. I'm not going to give up. I'm not going to try right that second.
Until we die.
Yep. You're just going to keep trying. And that's it. That's life. And that's so many things we can do better. So.
All right. We're going to stop this podcast right here.
Put the brakes on it.
Pip. Beep, beep, beep. Back that truck up for a minute and tell me about Chief Miller.
Chief Miller.
The man.
Is pretty much the myth.
He is
not
a
legend.
chief.
He's not a legend. But he is a chief.
And he is a machine. He's not a machine. He is a human.
For real, he's a human. He's not like a bot
we met
or
him.
anything like that. I met him 5 years ago. I took one of the first known pictures with Chief Miller.
He's not a Bigfootish type person. But tell me what he's doing out on the gram.
He is all over the place with his social media channels, promoting companies and doing something that I think is great. He's promoting the fire service. He is promoting what we're doing out there in the community, whether it be fighting fires, whether it be showing children the fire truck, wearing pink shirts for the month of October. He is highlighting all these positives that the emergency service does that a lot of times in the general media you don't see.
So he's highlighting the positive.
Positive. Definitely the positive.
The positive. He does manage the largest Instagram page dedicated to the men and women of the fire service.
And that is kind of crazy because followers on Instagram to a lot of people mean a lot.
Right.
And he has a lot of them.
Almost 200,000.
And the cooler part about Chief Miller is he will actually interact with you on the page. Mm-hmm. It's not, again, he's not a robot. It's not someone else doing it or some 15-year-old kid in a basement somewhere. He will speak to you. He'll come on. He pops on the IG Live sometimes.
Boom.
And he gives you, hey, y'all, this is Chief Miller.
Down in Louisiana.
I'm here with 555 Pip at the Firehouse Expo. And he's there.
Shout out to one of our title sponsors, Chief Miller. Thank you for your friendship. Thank you for your mentorship. Thank you for what you do for this thing that we call emergency services.
Thank you for your service, sir.
Chief Miller. Check him out at Chief_Miller on Instagram, Chief_Miller on the Twitter. And I think he's getting into Snapchat at Chief Miller.
Oh, just we can do better. So this was a weird one.
This one is a weird one. I don't know, though. I think we got a lot of tidbits in there.
I think we held hands in the middle of it.
Well, it's so funny that when your guy's obsessed with fitness so much that your dog has a kettlebell for a chew toy.
She has 2 kettlebells because she's that hardcore.
She's hardcore. Tell everybody out there in Jumpseat Nation where they can find you, and then we're going to hit stop, and then we'll probably go right back out for another one.
Sure. So you guys can find me on the Instagram at 555pip, on Facebook as Robert Paparo. You can always email me any questions, pip@555fitness.com. And then, of course, you could jump on to 555 Fitness on Facebook or Instagram or 555fitness.org and check out the not-for-profit, see what we're doing, see how we're helping out emergency service providers all around the country. And I'm going to add this one in there now, too. You could always check me out on Brute Force Training on the IG, Facebook, social media dials, because I am a part of that company, and I'm very proud to be able to say that now as we grow. So Brute Force Training. Brian's going to learn all about Brute Force Training in a little while.
I learned a little bit of it yesterday. It sucked. All right, everyone, that's it. This is the episode for Jumpseat Radio. I don't know what number it's going to end up being, 74, 5, or 6.
But Pip will be 40.
Pip will be 40. Pip will be the big 4-0 on Mischief Tuesday. That's it, everyone. You've been listening to Jumpseat Radio, the podcast that brings you from a freaking awesome house in the middle of New Jersey, and we're headed up to Peach Borden.
Central Jersey.
All right. See y'all next week.